Hey, everyone. Welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. Got a great guest on today. He's a creative executive and strategist helping businesses establish their brand, increase sales, and promote loyalty through effective creative leadership. Please join me in welcoming Nick Longo. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Thomas. How you doing?
Good. You ready for 20 questions?
Let's go. Yeah,
Question one, tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
sure. Currently, I run my own branding agency called Longo Designs. We specialize primarily in food and beverage, but obviously quite flexible and nimble for any branding needs. Previous to that, I was a creative director and vice president of creative for a toy manufacturer for many years, and that's where I fell in love with packaging and brand and development. So it's really incredible to now do that for smaller businesses on my own. It's just a blast to do. In addition to that, I am a professor of design at Cal State Northridge here in Los Angeles. And I get to do a lot of work with Adobe as well in their educational side and putting together conferences and speaking at different events that are encouraging young designers to, obviously continue on their path and give them all the insight they need as they kind of venture out into the real world.
Great. And just to note for the audience, if you're excited about these academic episodes, be sure to check out the upcoming episode with Don Norman. Question two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
I try to strategize a sales and customer service, uh, I'd say, dynamic first and foremost. I think there's so many incredible designers out there, and in most of the case, when we're talking to each other, we talk a lot about we're envious of each other's work or we see someone doing something great. What I realized a while back was that's amazing to continue and keep as a influence and as a inspiration when you need it, but what I want to put out there is more of what it's like to work with me as an agency and as a service provider and as someone that's going to work with you independently. So I think a lot of times uh, developing and putting out content to the potential person that's going to hire you is much more strategic and beneficial than just being in a room with other artists all the time. So I really strive on that.
Great, love that. So question three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
Because there's nothing else I think I could truly feel confident about in making a living. I think prior to figuring out graphic design and branding and creativity as a profession, I'm not sure if I knew what I'd be doing. And as I talk to a lot of other creatives, I feel like everybody has that same idea of when you discovered this and you saw that and you knew in your heart that this is exactly what you want to do, that was the invitation, and it has never disappointed. It's been the most incredible career to stay in this industry. So I'm thoroughly happy, and I think I made the right decision back in the day. And it's like I said, it's never disappointed me once.
Great. And some people struggle with number four. And the question is, what does your future look like?
I already know it. I feel going through the process of being a hands-on designer, going to more of a executive role, and then running a team and running a company. I do know I'm going to go through that field again of that area where I'm probably not going to be designing as much, um, and going back to more of a I fell in love with this mentorship and this idea of giving back and helping the next in line in our industry, and that has become a very fulfilling and gratifying experience as I continue to do that with young designers. And I want to help. I just love the fact that when I was doing this as a student, didn't have social media, didn't have all these incredible ways of connecting and learning from other folks via YouTube and other services. So I'm a big fan of giving back and helping the next people in line. So that's my future for sure.
Perfect. And number five, we say is unique to this show. The question is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Um, Actually, not as much as I think it does. it does, in the fact that I live and have always lived in my hometown, and so I am a big fan of travel. I'm a big fan of absorbing culture and changes and uniqueness of different parts that you get to visit and bring that back. I think those are more influential is in what I do than the location I'm actually in and working. I'm lucky enough now to finally work from a home office rather than my 20 years of commuting. So I'm I'm very helpful, happy that it's it's it is at home. But yeah, I think to answer that question the best, I know I can go anywhere and still do what I'm doing. So that confidence means maybe one day it will happen. But for now, I'm quite happy here in Southern California.
Perfect. And six, if you had to start from the beginning, what advice would you give your former younger self?
Oh, best thing I would say is to not be so precious with design, and you can keep the passion, you can keep all the energetic feelings of being a designer and a graphic designer or a creative, but I wish I had changed, or someone had told me early on in my career that ego and being precious about design and being more concerned as an artist and not as a business person. I wish I had learned that a lot sooner. And I stress that all the time with my current students to not be the oversensitive creative. And for many years, I was.
Nice. And what's a day in your life like?
Uh, I will wake up very early. I tend to enjoy getting a few things out of the way before anybody else I work with is up. And I love getting that completely done, and I can carry on with my day. I go to the gym at 5:30 in the morning. I'm back by 7. I am having coffee. I am doing my first few meetings. And every day is a little different after that. You know, it's really the ebbs and flows of your work and your clientele and how much handholding is needed, what phase of the project you're in. But the things that I try to keep consistent are that morning routine, sitting down and truly getting an hour break for lunch and it being something off the boards, away from the table, and then having a reasonable time that it's shut off so life can happen after that, and you keep that momentum going.
Great. And in that thread, lifelong learning is a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
I would have to say it's the online inspiration and the things that I check daily. I have a huge bookmark list of some of my favorite go-to places to check out each morning. The Die Line is an incredible resource for packaging. Brand New Under Consideration is a fantastic website all about branding and rebranding. And then it's just what my friends and colleagues and coworkers and folks are posting and putting out there left and right on either Instagram or X or primarily even LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn's becoming that new source because it is so business and kind of corporate first, rather than the other software or apps, I should say, that are, you know, truly image first, like Instagram.
Great. And tools. What tools do you use? Do you use digital and analog tools?
I'm much more digital with tools. I'm much more analog with organization and maybe even uh, strategy and process. So I still love pen to paper. I still love things that are physical and in my sight. But when it comes to doing the work, it is 100% digital. I have a great studio within the house. I have a great mobile with a laptop, so it can happen anywhere else. But I'm a big fan of big displays, um, everything ready to go. And I love that feeling of a tidy desk, because the minute you have to approach it and really hit the canvas and work on some stuff, the better your environment, I think the more positively you approach that work.
Great. And halfway number 10, how do you deal with work life or life work balance?
Through experience, I think you realize what works and what doesn't. I've tried many different options to see how that would work. Again, making sure I'm closing down at the end of the day, whatever time that might be or what it works for you, is my usual kind of recommendation or suggestion to anybody battling with that. Because then I think you do have to have time to live. You have to have time to experience. You have to have time around loved ones and people to know what to do in your work. I mean, everything we do is persuasive and emotional and storytelling. So if you're not getting that in your day to day, how can you be the author of it through your design work or through anything that you are creating?
Great. And if you weren't doing what you do now, what might you be doing?
I would be a TV chef with my own cooking show. 100%. I think that's my true like side hustle, passion, whatever you want to call it, passion project. As I'm a vegan, so to me, it's one of those things to learn how to cook was one of my most like fun filled times, particularly in learning new recipes, understanding how to eat balanced and still eat good. But to me, it is the artistic kind of release I get to do that I don't get to do primarily with clients, because it has to be so strategy and built and like engineered. Whereas cooking allows, it's like, I'm sure if you're an incredible illustrator on the side or a painter or a sculptor, whatever it might be, it's your rules, it's your kitchen, it's your kind of chemistry, whatever you want to do. That freedom keeps me, that probably contributes to that work-life balance as well. So having that other thing that is creative but is not tied to a paycheck or a source of income is quite amazing.
Nice. And 12, what would you not like to do with your career?
Oh, wow. What would I not like to do? Um, I wouldn't want to be isolated and um, in a bubble, not sharing and being transparent with struggles and things that were tough, the hurdles that we have. I think going back to saying we get to share and be a mentor to the next people in line in our industry, I would never want to be that person that isn't sharing the success stories and the, and those hard times as well, and those frustrations, because we're all human. So I would never want to be that person in my career. I would never want to be a person that thinks they know it all or has figured it out, because in talking with so many other designers and creatives out there, particularly the ones that you think have it all figured out, and they can be honest with you and tell you that we're all just figuring this out as we go, and you never master it. You get to a point where you might be comfortable with something that you have struggled to overcome, and just like that, the next thing happens, and how do you get over that? So continuous learning, making sure you're humble, and you just remember this is just what you do. It's not your art. I'm sorry, it's not you that anyone is would criticize. I would never want to do that as well. It's the art that you would criticize, or the work. So I like to keep that pretty well separated, so it really keeps me in check.
Nice. And 13, do you have a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Ooh, it goes back to what I said earlier, and I've used this one 100 times, but it's, be passionate, not precious. That's a really good one. But other than that, it is the humbleness. It is that kind of like, be a part of this community. Our community is so awesome. They share so much. You're seeing that with the people you interview, and how openly people are sharing all of the good, all of the bad. Um, that kind of stuff really sticks with me as well. But I wouldn't say there's one or two that really stand out at the moment, because I think I go through those when it comes to what you're going through at that time.
Nice. And how about a least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Oh, um, you know, I hear a lot of people say like, don't work for free or whatever that might be. Don't give away your work. And for years, I 1000% believe that, but I think there's no way to 1000% believe in anything. Everything has some flexibility. And, nowadays with a young designer, or maybe someone who is unfortunately out of work, we're seeing that a lot particularly in the Los Angeles area, uh, with the economy and everything else. So you might have to just do something to get noticed, and for someone to possibly hire you and then pay you. And if it means doing something a little bit on spec to kind of show and stand out above the sea of competitors that you're going to be against, I think it's okay to experiment in that zone, but obviously don't let anyone take advantage of you to the point where it becomes the norm with that person. So if you are doing something for free, explain to them you're doing this to, to show your talent, to show your worth, and be upfront with what pricing might be like if they go with you. So I've had some luck with that in the past, going after some dream clients. I have produced work completely on spec, completely to pitch, and it has worked. So I would say that's the one area, the one thing I don't like when people say that without any context.
Nice. And if you had to pick one word to describe yourself, what word would you choose?
Nimble. I think nimble's that word that, like, again, I never want to be in one lane. I never want to be considered for one thing, but nimble is something I put in my personal brand strategy when I was creating kind of look and feel, tone and voice for anything I would put out there. Is this idea that um, anyone that's going to hire me, if I don't tell them who I am and what I do, their preconceptions could be completely off. It's like when you finish a branding project for someone and then they come to you and say, do you know anyone that can create the menu board for the logo you just created for our restaurant? And that was probably my fault in not explaining to them that I'd be the perfect person to do also that as well. I'm that nimble. And so, like, that's that word that I think is more beneficial to me than, you know, uh, expert designer or strategic or whatever it might be. Um, you need to inform people about what you do and what you can be for them, and that carries on. Then you're a legacy client or vendor to them, and you have nice, long-lasting relationships with clients for years.
Nice. And 16 is what keeps you up at night.
Finances. um, I would say that has been my pet peeve for many years, even as a kid. I think my parents just instilled that idea that keep an eye and a open kind of, you're observing that dashboard of finances and money and things like that. So maybe it got to a point where I worry without having the reason to worry sometimes. It's just my nature, but also that does, as I'm not a numbers person in any way. I think all of us chose art because we were promised there'd be no math. So I'm more worried about it because I'm not the numbers person. So if I keep an eye on things, obviously it's much better. You have a perfect kind of capture of where you are with things. But for some reason, in the middle of the night, if I wake up, it's always that second thing, Thomas, is timing and being on time. That for some reason, that is my thing that I'm so kind of like paranoid of being late. I'm paranoid of disappointing when it comes to being somewhere where I have to be or showing up prepared, all of those things. That is by far another thing that keeps me up all the time.
Nice. And approaching the final stretch here, what's a
Yes.
dream you're chasing?
Say again.
What's a dream you're chasing?
Ooh, I think the dream I'm chasing would be exactly what I'm doing right now and just evolving. If I evolve into more of a more on the teaching and mentoring side, that would be the dream down the road and a goal I'm obviously trying for. Um, I think it's just continually being happy with the choices I've made, the career I've had, the people that I get to meet along the way, and sharing that with folks. I like giving this industry a good name. I like being a advocate and kind of an ambassador to this industry for more people to feel okay, that it is a proper profession to get into. So to me, I'm so thankful to the people that were my heroes growing up in design to show that that was something worth going after and you can make a living at it. So I'm a big fan of keeping that part alive for people, because then it would be their dream. And I know how passionate people get when choosing this, and someone might tell them, uh You sure you want to get into that industry? I want to shatter that myth that it is an incredible thing to go through. Everyone, creative is so in demand right now. There's so much work to be found. I want to keep that alive.
Nice. And 18, what inspires you?
I'm a big fan of architecture, car design, anything that kind of hits the soul. I love any design that evokes an emotion and a reaction. And so it could be anything in those zones. But I think, to me, I love innovation. I love supporting and being a part of companies or brands that are really pushing the envelope when it comes to refinement, technology, advancement, all those things that I think, uh, the seamlessness, when you think of like Apple and how much goes into it, but then the face of it and the interface of it is so beautifully simple and clean and elegant. Those are the things that really just spark me 100%.
Great. And any advice you'd like to share?
Ooh, yeah, I would say learn the process of how you are as the business person in our art field. There's so much out there that talks about how to be a better artist, how to be a better communicator in your work and things like that. The thing I would leave you with is understand that if you are working for someone or you're working for yourself and you have clients or you have a boss, whatever it might be, to just be that undeniable cog in the wheel, whatever it is, that person that cannot be replaced, that person that they can't do without. Because we're going to go through these ups and downs when it comes to employment, cutbacks, whatever it might be. And I've been on both sides of that. I've been fired and I've had to fire. And I've learned a lot in thinking when that time happens, you want to be on the side of the paper that this column of people that cannot be replaced. They're invaluable. There is a spirit and a they provide part of the culture of that company, whatever it might be, even if it's just you as a freelancer on your own. Be that person that cannot be replaced. And I think you won't be you'll be so surprised at how far that goes, because that builds your reputation and that gets people to talk about you when you're not there in the best possible way. And you have a team of advocates and cheerleaders out there representing you because of how good your reputation and your quality is with them.
Nice. I like that. And finally, number 20, how can our listeners keep tabs on you? What's our call to action today?
Wonderful. Everything I have is at either longodesigns.com on my website or Longo Designs on Instagram. And the link tree on Instagram is great because that gives me a chance to put anything that I'm currently working on or want to share. And I would heavily encourage everybody, truly, to get on. If you're not on LinkedIn, as it's kind of like uh, kind of often as you should be, really make a habit of going on there. A lot of the content I put on there is to encourage other creatives to be a part of that community as well. You'll be surprised that when you talk to the person that is truly a decision maker and can use finances, whatever it might be, from the company they work for to hire you, that is, or even just be a part of your community or your network, it goes so much farther than any other platform. So if there's, I'm going to leave you with one thing, is contribute there, put a lot of effort into that, let the world know who you are and what you do, and they'll come knocking.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. So inspiring to hear the kind of entrepreneurial spirit and what you're talking about. I think it's going to be inspiring for a lot of our listeners. Thanks for joining.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. And thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.